guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new video. So I just finished up washing the F80. It's been a while since I got a good wash on this car. Looking phenomenal. Absolutely love it. Every single time I clean up this car, it just makes me love it even more. We got a ton of stuff coming in for it. So stay tuned. We got stuff over there. We got a bunch of stuff coming in this week. Really excited. Some interior stuff, some exterior stuff, a little bit of everything. So I'm pumped for all that. But we're actually going to be jumping on the truck in this video. So I love putting intakes on my cars just because of the sound. I'm not really looking for performance gains or anything like that. The sounds of a turbo car or truck with an intake sounds amazing. And it's just the car enthusiast in me wanting to touch and kind of upgrade everything. You guys know everything I did on the F80. But I've already done an intake on the F150. We actually did the Injen dual intake a couple of years ago, actually. I'm still running it, still love it, still sounds great, but I wanted to try something different. So one of the intakes I wanted to try on the F150 was this one. This is the SB intake for the EcoBoost 3.5 liter. And I was kind of back and forth between the Injen and this one when I first did that one. But now that I've experienced that one, I want to try something a little bit different. I don't know if it's just me getting older or whatnot, but I want something a little bit quieter in terms of the intake. The Injen sounds good. It's definitely much louder than most intakes since it's an open concept. There's no closed housing or anything. So I wanted to try this one out. This one's a little bit different as it's just one giant filter and also an enclosed housing. So I'm curious to see if it's gonna be a little bit quieter. I'm curious to see if I'm gonna feel any power difference or anything. Probably not much. I mean, it's an intake. We all know that intakes don't add much, but I will show you in a second the Injen. It's a little bit more prone to heat soaking just because it's kind of open in the engine bay. It does seal when the hood is closed with the little kind of shroud that it does have, but this one is a fully enclosed intake. It's a pretty cool looking intake, so I'm gonna show it to you guys, obviously, show you how to install it. But first things first, I actually need to remove the Injen. I'll show it to you right before I take it out, and then we'll get going on installing the SB one. All right, so we got the hood open. This is the Injen dual intake I have been running. You guys probably have seen it if you've seen my video on it. Sounds really great. Been really happy with it. No issues whatsoever. And it's been just fine. But as I mentioned, I wanted to try this one out, see if it's any better, see if I like it better in terms of the sound and everything. But as you can see with this one, this is just a shroud. It's not a fully enclosed intake. When the hood is closed, it does close down on this rubber gasket, creating somewhat of a seal, but there's still these holes and everything. So I guess you can say it's a little bit more prone to heat soaking as opposed to the one that we're going to install. So as I mentioned, let's go ahead, let's remove this. I am going to be selling this, so if anybody is interested, I'll be letting it go for cheap. I think right now it's 530 bucks, so I'll probably let it go for around 400. These are reusable dry filters, so I'll clean them up and everything, obviously wipe it down. So if anybody is interested in this one, let me know. We can work something out. Hit me up on Instagram and I can get it sold to you. But let me go ahead, let's remove this, and then we can get going on the SB. All right, guys, so we got the Injen out. So if anybody is interested in this, let me know. It's in great shape. Everything is included and needed to install. I'll probably be shipping it in this box just because it's big enough to fit everything. But here is the SB intake all laid out. This is everything you do get. You obviously get some clamps and all that stuff over there, but this is the majority of the entire intake. Now, obviously the difference is not only it's a single filter intake and also that it's enclosed, but it's also made of plastic as opposed to aluminum or metal, whatever that's made out of. So I do feel like this is gonna last a little bit longer in terms of looking good. Plastic tends to look a little bit nicer than metal over time, just because it can easily scratch or rust or whatnot. Plastic is a little bit more durable. So basically the whole entire setup is this, and the intake goes in here. There's actually a plexiglass cover that goes over here so you can see the intake. So it's just really nice, so you can see if it's dirty and whatnot, and plus it adds a nice little look. There's two versions of this. One, you can actually get the oiled filter, which is this one, or you can get the dry filter. Typically, I like dry filters better just so I don't have to worry about re-oiling or anything, but I don't know. I just decided to get to the oiled one. Most people went with that one, said it was the best, and I've done it in the past where I've cleaned filters or reusable filters and just re-oiled them, and everything is good. But let's go ahead, let's get it started. First thing you actually need to do is disconnect the negative terminal, which I've already done. Make sure you do that. Do not skip that step. If it's not disconnected for at least 2 hours, they say that the check engine light can pop on. So make sure you disconnect that, don't skip it. I know it's just an intake, but don't skip it. So now that we kind of get everything laid out, ready to go, let's move on to the next step. All right, so I actually had to go up in storage and get my stock airbox because I need this bushing. So basically we're gonna pop that off, and then if we look on the side of the SMB right here, we're gonna slip that bushing right in there. The other bushings that are going the bottom, those are still in the truck, so we're good there. But the only one that we need right now is that one off of the stock intake. So let's take that off and pop it onto the new one. All right, so the stock bushing does come in 2 pieces. I recommend taking out the little metal bushing first, and then you can slip it in much easier. So we're gonna go from here, try to pop this in. Like that. And then we're gonna take the metal bushing and slip this on the inside. Like that. So you should have the metal sleeve on the inside, the bushing in, and then we're good to go. All right, next step, you look on the back of the airbox, and we're going to take this giant grommet and slip that on. It kind of has like a groove in it. It just slips over into that. Like so. Then we're going to take the biggest clamp that they did provide and clamp that down on there. End up putting the clamp bottom here where you tighten on the bottom of the airbag so you don't see it, so it looks kind of nice and clean on top. But you want to make sure this little tab is pointed towards the bottom of the airbox. They say that in the instructions, don't put it up, make sure it's facing the bottom. All right, next up, we're going to install the inlet here. So just slip it onto the airbox like that. And then we're going to use these supplied push clips to go into the little holes here to hold it in place like that. There's also 2 on the bottom, so there's 2 down here as well. All right, so this is what it should look like on the actual airbox. We got the inlet on with the push clips in. We got the little grommet on for the actual intake tube that goes into the filter in there. Now we're going to move on to the, I guess the arm or the other piping piece of the intake. So if we look here, we're looking for this side hole and this grommet right here. We're actually going to, sorry, can't do it one-handed. I'll put it down in a second, but we're going to pop that grommet into that hole. This is for the IAT air sensor. So let's go ahead and pop that in. All right, there we go. Pretty simple. Got that popped in. We're sticking to this tube right here. We're actually going to take the little couplers. The bigger one goes on this one, smaller one goes on this one. They do provide clamps as well. So these are just gonna slip on like so. And then same thing on this side. Obviously gonna tighten them down once they're on the car. Now if you can see this kind of middle bump out, this middle bubble on the coupler, you want that on the edge of the inlet tube right there. So there's even amount of tubing into each side. You don't want this pushed too far, so it gets a nice connection. So let me go ahead and get these clamps on. Same thing over here. All right, so we got everything pretty much set on the actual intake boxes. So now what we actually need to do is go over to the truck and locate the CCV inlet. There's going to be a little insert that we're going to be putting into, which is actually right here, which prevents a check engine light. I actually had a similar one. Actually, it's over here. You can see it on the ground right here. This one was made of aluminum from the Injen, but same concept. Now you can see it's kind of angled right there. You want the opening facing the turbo. So basically you want the opening facing the back of the truck. So I'll show you where that is. It's pretty simple. This is, see, as you can see on here, it actually says this side towards turbo. So pretty simple. Basically this is going to, it's like kind of a defouler basically when you do catless on a car or something like that. Kind of tricks the system thinking that, you know, everything is good to go. So let me go ahead and show you where that is. Slip this in, and then we can actually start putting the intake boxes in and everything and getting it set up in the truck. All right, so I took the engine cover off just for ease of the video, but we're going to be looking at this line right here. So if you look down, this is actually going into one of the intake tubes right here. So if you look straight down, this connection right here, we're actually going to pull that off. All right, so you just kind of push this little gray tab in, the whole thing slips out. Now we're going to take that little tube, make sure the opening is facing back, slip that right in there like that. like so, and then we're just going to plug it right back in. Simple as that. All right, so now that we got all that done, now we can actually install the airbox. So if we look on the bottom here, there are these two little tabs. Those are actually going to go, let me show you right on the truck so you get an idea. If you look at these two grommets right here, they're gonna pop right into that. So let me go ahead and pop that in, then we can start throwing the tubes on and everything, and I'll wrap this up almost pretty quick. All right, so we got it seated into place. Next thing we're actually gonna do is remove this 13mm. I already started. Then we're gonna slip it through the inside of the box, through that grommet, back into that threaded hole, so it's gonna hold into place. Next up, we got the IAT. So they actually tell you to remove this O-ring. Just do it really carefully. I got a pick tool here. Basically, just kind of lift it up. And obviously you don't want to damage the sensor, so just take it off nice and gently. Now we're going to take the sensor and twist it into this grommet. Now you want this tab right here touching the grommet. So the best way to do it is kind of shimmy it in. You don't want to push too hard because you don't want to remove the grommet that we just put in. So kind of spin it in, hold the grommet in place, and it'll pop in eventually. All right, so you want it looking like that with the tab all the way pushed towards the back. This is the position they had it in the instructions, so that is the way that I'm going to do it. But now we can go ahead and throw this on the truck, kind of get everything tightened down. They also include an extension wire for this as well, I believe. So let me look into that real quick. Actually, mine's a 2015, but if you have a 2017, you will need that extension for the IAT. I don't need that, so we're good to go. But let's go ahead and actually it says to get the filter into the airbox, so we're going to do that next. And then kind of get this stuff on. So we're almost there, pretty simple. So in order to get this filter in, they say put it in sideways and then turn it when it's in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so I got all the tubing lined up. I'm not gonna lie, it did take quite a bit of muscle to get this situated. Now, and to get the actual filter onto the inlet, the tubing, don't push it all the way through yet. Kind of position the filter where it needs to be, and then kind of push the tube in and then pop the filter on. Took a lot of trial and error, but I finally got it. Not much room to work in there, but it all goes on. Everything fits nice, everything lines up. So yeah, so now I'm gonna go ahead and tighten all these clamps down and we should be good to go. And then we're gonna get the little plexiglass cover on top there, and we can go for a ride, get some sound clips and see what I think. All right, so last step, this is the clear cover, and this is the kind of grommet it slips into. So you kind of see there's a little lip, a little edge in there. Basically, you're just going to slip that in there, and that's it. The older style actually had the screws, but this one is just a pressure fit. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now I just have to remove this covering. I'll do this off camera and then show you what it looks like. Kind of slip it into place. All right, there we go, guys. Everything is installed. Looks pretty cool. Just got to make sure you don't have any fingerprints on the inside, which I think I do. I need to take it back out and clean the inside, but otherwise super clean. It looks very OEM. I really do like that it has the snorkel. My previous one, the Injen, does not have that. It's just empty here. And yeah, so this is a little bit more kind of forced into this area. So I'm curious to hear what it sounds like. So let's go ahead, let's go for a rip, see what this thing sounds like. All right, here's some quick in-cabin shots. Can't really hear too much. I'm not sure if you'll be able to pick it up on camera, but you can hear when you let off the gas. It's not as prominent as the Injen. I mean, with the Injen, you can hear it constantly with the windows up or down. It was pretty, it was almost over the top, but it sounded cool for a little while, but I'm really happy with this. Yeah, you can hear some nice turbo spooling, Some nice induction noise, but not over the top. I'm liking it a lot. All right, there we go, guys. There is the install of the SB intake. I love it. I don't know if it's me just getting older, but I do like the little bit quieter induction noise, especially in the cabin, just cruising around. With the Injen, you really hear it prominently anytime you're on the gas. It just sounds like it's sucking in air at all times, which is cool in its own right. But at the end of the day, when you are driving a lot and everything, it kind of gets annoying. I actually am planning on towing a 35 or 37 foot camper. So something like the Injen intake with a camper with, you know, such a heavy load would get pretty annoying, since you would be on throttle and in a higher RPM than most. So I wanted to switch it up and go with something a little bit simpler. I'm not sure if it's just me or the placebo effect, but I honestly do feel like the truck has a little bit more kind of oomph, a little bit more pep, if you will. I just think the enclosed structure, the enclosed housing is just making the air not only a little bit cooler, but also it's directing it straight into the filter, whereas the Injen was just kind of open here. Not to mention, I think it looks pretty cool. It almost looks somewhat stock, very OEM with the plastics and everything. It's very nice looking. And I'm really happy. The fitment is fantastic. There was no areas where I was struggling to get it to fit. Everything lined up very well, and everything is hidden. A thing I really liked about on the back here for the IAT sensor in the 2015s, at least for mine, there's these little holes in the back there that the IAT wire pops into, so it's not just dangling it around or anything. You don't have to use any zip ties. So it's a really clean looking intake, and I'm super happy with the end result. But yeah, I have 82,000 miles on this truck, and it is absolutely kicking it. I have loved this thing immensely. I know you guys enjoy the M3 content even more, but anytime I do anything to the truck, I have to update you guys, since I love this thing so much. And it's been an absolute blast dailying this thing and driving it every day. It's come in such use for my family and just being a homeowner and everything. I'm a dad with 3 kids, so constantly hauling a bunch of stuff. I've helped family out millions of times, felt friends and everything, so it really has come in handy and has been a blast owning this truck. So that's gonna do this for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all, be sure to ask them below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple. I'll catch you guys in the next one.